And Arizona is just one of the pivotal states that will determine the balance of power in Washington. And 100 days out, my next guest, political strategist Rachel Bitecofer, says this, quote, there are three issues in 2022, economy, democracy, and abortion. We want offensive, scorched earth messaging strategies on all three. Let's bring her in to talk more. Rachel Bitecofer, thank you for being here, political strategist and host of The Cycle on Substack. So those three issues, as you see them, economy, democracy, abortion, how are Democrats going in messaging to voters on these?
Yeah, and to be clear, this is based on quantitative evidence from poll after poll, asking voters what's important to you. And obviously, economic concerns dominate the American electorate because most Americans don't pay attention to news and current events. They don't know who their elected officials are, but they do know how much gas costs. So when we talk about these three issues, the salience is going to determine, the news cycle determines their salience. But we have a competitive advantage on all three. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, Rachel, how is that true? Because Biden's in charge and inflation is high, right? Well, it depends on how you structure your messaging and what aspects of the economy that you focus on. But it's really easy to make a case against the Republican Party right now. I mean, it is doing and saying things that are disqualifying, as you were just showing in Arizona. The candidate field there is quite extreme. So at the end of the day, inflation, gas prices, economy, and abortion rights all roll into a broad conversation about the radicalism of the Republicans.
And you say it's easy to make a case against Republicans, though there are a lot of cases against Democrats right now. So what are Democratic prospects for the midterms, especially? I know Vox recently noted three potential bright spots, actually, Democrats have ahead of the midterms. Quote, the GOP has nominated extreme candidates without broad appeal. GOP incumbents are haunted by their records, and Democrats are deflecting Republican attacks and energized by policy, end quote. So, Rachel, how powerful could these outlined bright spots amid a lot of pessimism be for Democrats, especially with some of these GOP Senate candidates like Dr. Oz and Herschel Walker, who are currently underperforming in their states?
Yeah, so historically in American politics, the economy has been a major predictor. But over the last 15 years, especially the last 10, in models like Nate Silver's, they've had to start discounting the weight of economic indicators and instead increasing the influence of things like hyperpartisanship and polarization. And so I mention that because when we talk about who's in power and the economic narrative, it is true that the Democrats are in power, but we're talking about a midterm cycle, not 4 years of Joe Biden. So it's really possible for them to phrase and to frame the campaign on, yes, you might be in the mood for change, but remember what that change looks like and then disqualify it.
And then quickly, I just want to ask, how can Democrats maintain positive momentum? We've seen some recent polling showing that things are looking good.
Yeah, well, that positive momentum is coming from fear and threat, right? So what I would tell you is what Democrats need is to focus on the abnormality of this cycle. So it's true, like when you said, a lot of the attention on the economy and inflation ends up on Democrats, and that's just a byproduct of in-party and news media. The news covers the party in power and economic indicators in a certain way. What Democrats need to do is to show, not just in the collective frame, but in a personal way for voters, how Republican control will affect their pocketbook adversely.
Rachel Bitecofer breaking it down. Thank you so much.